I do want to tell you that it's really thrilling to be here with all of you to help celebrate this golden jubilee of CFO. I do want to make just a few very brief comments by way of introduction to the slide presentation you're going to see tonight. The idea for the program came at Calgary 2 years ago while the committee was planning for the third international celebration for CFO in Colorado, and it was presented there last September. The thought came to some of the people thinking about it that many of the overseas delegates had not known Glenn Clark and had never seen him, and neither had they seen many of the other early leaders in CFO. And so they thought, wouldn't it be a nice idea if they could both see and hear the voice of some of those early giants of the faith that Norman was talking about last night. So this idea was conceived. And the committee then chose 6 of the early speaking leaders who are now with the Lord. And we have built the program around them. For this particular presentation, I have added a postscript at the suggestion of this planning committee for this national meeting, because we feel that we not only are looking back in gratitude to the past, but we also are rejoicing in the present. And we're facing the future with faith and confidence and praying with the Apostle Paul that we may not be disobedient to the heavenly vision. Now, this postscript that I've added just for tonight will not be on the sets of duplicates which I have prepared to be made available to the camps this summer and will be handled through the association office by Joyce Walker and her helpers there in the association office. These duplicate sets are arranged for 1 projector instead of 2, as I will be using tonight. So you may get in touch with Joyce if you're interested in that. Now, we're indebted to Roland and Marcia Brown and to Frank Cassabaum for many of the pictures of the people that we will be seeing tonight. The photography and the arrangement I have done together with my husband, who has been a faithful and patient consultant. After the international meeting in Colorado, my husband went traveling on the Jericho Road and fell among thieves. You remember the one was stripped and bleeding and left as dead alongside of the road. Well, my husband wasn't left as dead, but he was stripped, and he was so stunned at what happened that he felt like he was dead. He went from the international to Kansas to hold some prayer schools. I flew home. After 2 weeks, he was on his way back home, stopped in Oklahoma City to stay overnight at my sister's home. He thought the car was securely locked and parked in her driveway, but when he went out the next morning to continue on his journey, there was no car. He couldn't imagine for a long time what in the world had happened to the car. He thought it had been put inside the car garage and locked, but eventually the awful truth dawned on him that the car was stolen, and that literally all he had was the clothes on his back and his shaving kit. And he had another prayer school to conduct on the way home. So you see what I mean when I said he was stripped. Well, to make the story short, he was able, with the help of my sister, and borrowing some underwear and ties and shirts and socks, and buying a new sport coat to continue on to the church and conduct the prayer school and then come on home. When he called me, he said, you know, the police give us practically no hope of finding the car because they say there's a ring operating in Oklahoma City, and if we find the car at all, it will have been stripped and burned. Now, everything was in that car that he carries with him. Hundreds of books, several $100s worth of money in cash from the book sales was in his briefcase, his credit cards, all his clothes, and the projection equipment and all of the slides of this heritage presentation, along with the slides of our world tour. And when he called and told me that, I said, "Oh, God, please protect those slides." Those were my words. Well, I suppose I prayed that 1,000 times, because the obvious thing would be that the slides would just be destroyed. They couldn't be pawned. They were of no use to anyone else. And so naturally you would think that somebody would just throw them away. But over and over, God, protect those slides. Thank God for the prayer tower. I don't know how I would have gotten through the year this year without the prayer tower and Ollie Rose. So I called, and lots of people started to pray. In 2 weeks' time, we were notified by the Oklahoma City Police that the car had been discovered and was being held responsible for a hit-and-run accident. So it was not stolen by a ring, but rather by 2 teenagers. When we did get there to investigate, we discovered that about half of the contents was still in the car. Fortunately, and praise the Lord, a lot of the things that would not have been covered by insurance, such as books and cash and credit cards and so on, were still in the car. They hadn't even found the cash. Wasn't that fantastic? But the slides and the projection equipment and most of our clothes were gone. Well, insurance settled beautifully for the things that could be replaced, but the slides, of course, could not be replaced. And we kept praying. And I must confess, I don't know that I prayed with faith. You know that song, "God specializes in things thought impossible. He can do what no other one can do." And I knew that mentally, but I kept wondering how, because I knew there was no identification on those slides. I didn't see how it could be. But I'm here to tell you tonight that after 2 months and a reward of $100, those slides were recovered. Praise God. And I've already been reimbursed for the $100. Thank you. And so every one of them were there, all of them dumped together in a big plastic bag, but all 280 of them were there. And so we just thank God for a miracle, which you are going to see tonight. And truly, he specializes in things thought impossible.